What's up? What's up, guys? Welcome back to Dunk Dynasty, a college sports podcast. We had a lot happen in the last week. We had a lot of conference realignment. We had a lot of great football games. We had a lot of news talking about college basketball. But today, we are talking all things Big 12. At this point, we've all either watched 3, maybe 4 games of every Big 12 football team. I'm going to spare you the effort and redraft the preseason media poll for each football team if the season ended now. Let's break it down. We're going to break it down dunk style. I wrote this article yesterday. I released this article yesterday on my Twitter page. Anytime I release an article, I'll talk about it on the show on Monday, but I'm going to release it to my social media follows early. If you want to watch it, you can watch it. If you don't like reading, wait till Monday. I'll give you the article preview, give you the article overview on Monday. It was a long article. I think it's like 2,500 words or something like that. I haven't wrote a 2,500 word article since college, ladies and gentlemen. So we're talking sports. You know I'm a ball knower. Everybody knows I'm a ball knower. So let's dive right in, dunk style. I think the only thing that the preseason media poll got right is Utah. Utah at number 1 was the consensus pick, almost the consensus pick. I guess there was some people that thought Kansas should have been number 1, Kansas State should have been number 1. So I think they got like 185 votes out of 200 or something like that. I think we can all agree the media got this one right. Cam Rising is arguably the best quarterback in the Big 12. They beat Oklahoma State without Cam Rising on the road in Stillwater. On top of having Cam Rising, you have Brant Kuth, who is a legitimate contender for the best tight end in the country. You have Micah Bernard, who can run the hell out of the ball each and every game. He's averaging 6.9 yards per carry through 4 games and is on pace for 1,400 yards this season. Media, you got this right. Utah's good. That's the only thing you got right. I'll let you know now. Preseason ranked number 3, I have them now at number 2, was Oklahoma State. Coming into the season, there was some concerns for the quarterback play. Alan Bowman, what seems to be his 25th year of college football. What I can tell you is that the fans of the Cowboys should not be worried about Alan Bowman. He has a 2.5 touchdown to interception ratio this season, averaging just under 300 passing yards through the air. Where the fans should be worried is where the fuck is Ollie Gordon? After some offseason theatrics, drunk driving, reckless driving, it seems like the fan in Stillwater might need to put Ollie's picture on the side of a milk carton. He's averaging 64 yards per game. He only has 2 touchdowns through 4 games. I can see a world where we see a Utah-Oklahoma State rematch for the Big 12 title. I don't love it, but right now, that's far and away going to be the rematch that everyone sees. Number 3, preseason had them at 13, and that's going to be the BYU Cougars. Boys and girls, Provo, Utah is buzzing. They're 4-0 to start the season. You got a dominant win over Kansas State. The defense had 4 turnovers. Special teams had a 90-yard punt return. Gary Bohannon hasn't played much after, quote-unquote, winning the job. The media said, Jerry Bohannon won the job. And this is why they had BYU ranked at 13. Retzlaff stepped up, and then some. His 3 touchdowns to interception ratio in 4 games is stealing the job as he continues to decimate offenses to the tune of a rating of 156 per game. The only downside that BYU has is they have a tough schedule going forward. They are ranked number 22 in the nation, let's not forget. But they have Oklahoma, they have UCF, they have Utah, they have Kansas, they have Arizona State, and then they wrap up the season with Houston. For those of you who don't know, Houston fucking sucks. We all knew that was going to happen. So, Can BYU be in the conversation for the Big 12 title? I want to say yes, but you got Oklahoma State, you got UCF, you got Utah, you got Kansas, you got Arizona State. That's a killer 5 games over 6. They also have Arizona in that stretch. Arizona, I'm not really sure if they're good or not, so we'll get back to them. But Kansas State, preseason number 2, I have them at 4. Prior to this week 4 matchup against BYU, many thought this team was going to be competing for the top spot in that coveted 4 seed in the playoffs. I think that the team is good, but after last night's game against BYU, they have a lot of holes. DJ Giddens is very good at football. He has 417 yards in 4 games, which averages out to just over 104 yards per game. The issue I have with this team is whether or not Avery Johnson is good. He has a 61% completion percentage, but my biggest issue is Kansas State doesn't throw the ball. He only averages 155 yards per game. If Kansas State can figure it out through the air, I think they can still compete. The issue is that they still have to play Oklahoma State and Iowa State before getting to the title game. I personally think that they'll have to win out if they want a spot in the Big 12 title. Preseason number 6, I have them at number 5, moving up 1 spot, Iowa State. This team has lived up to the expectation that most people thought they would, beating rivals Iowa on the road, absolutely stomping North Dakota and Arkansas State. They had a bye in week 4. They play Houston in week 5, which is essentially another bye week. If this team really wants to compete down the stretch and prove that they're the real deal, I need to see if their quarterback Becht can throw the ball and throw the ball accurately. But I also need to see their running back, Sama III, running the ball more. The fact that they've had 2 blowouts in 3 games, I know they've been sitting players and things along those lines, but the Big 12 is so good top to bottom, minus Houston. Sorry, Houston fans. You guys aren't good. If the team becomes one-dimensional, it makes it very, very hard to win games down the stretch if teams know what's coming. And that takes us to number 6. Preseason number 8, I have them moving up 2 spots, is going to be UCF. RJ Harvey, KJ Jefferson have done exactly what everyone expected them to do through this season. Run the ball and do it very, very efficiently. If you can have a tandem of a running back and a quarterback who basically is a running back in your backfield, you're going to be pretty good. They have 600 yards on the ground and 9 touchdowns through 3 weeks between the 2 of them. Jefferson has also been very efficient from being a quarterback and actually doing what quarterbacks do and throwing the ball. He's 63% completion percentage, 11 yards per catch. If this team wants to prove to me they're the real deal, they need to rattle off wins against Florida, Colorado, and Cincinnati and go into their game at Iowa State 6-0. The last game of the season is between Utah and UCF. Could this be the year that UCF really wins a national championship? For those of you who don't remember, UCF, they won like 37 games straight or something ridiculous, and people claimed that they were the national champion, even though they never played in the college football playoffs. Anyway, moving on. Arizona, pre-ranked number 5. I have them ranked number 7. They're 2-1 on the season. They had a bye week in week 4, had a terrible loss to Kansas State. They lost by 31. They were looking very bleak against NAU before. I think they only won by 10 when the spread was 39 or something like that. They were losing to UNM at the half. I'm very disappointed with how this team has looked through the first four weeks of the season, 3 weeks of the season, whatever you want to say. Was Coach Jed Fish really the only reason that this team was good? Noah Fafita, McMillan, they're controlling most of the offense, which I don't think anyone is surprised with. If this team wants to compete late in the season, we need to see more opportunities from Conley in the rush game. We need a variety of receivers in the passing game. Very similar to Iowa State. If Arizona can't develop a second and a third option, this team becomes very one-dimensional. You put 2 guys on Teoshiar McMillan. I don't expect them to be competing for a Big 12 title at the end of the season. Sorry, Arizona fans, but it's just not going to happen. Texas Tech, Preseason number 9, I have them coming in at 8. Through 4 weeks in the season, Texas Tech have proved one thing. They're very good at playing a hard-nosed version of football. They're going to run the ball down your throat with Taj Books. In the same breath, they have a quarterback who throws the damn ball so good. 7 yards per catch, 1,200 yards to his credit through 4 games. He's thrown the ball 200 times in 4 games. He may not have a shoulder at the end of the season, but what I can tell you is that this offense is very good, and this offense is willing to get into a boat race with you. And they are willing to score a lot of points because they can. They can score at will, and they don't need a defense because they're averaging 41 points per game. They're proving to be one of the better teams in the conference. They have a fairly easy schedule, second half. I would not be surprised to see Texas Tech winning 9 games this year. West Virginia, preseason number 7, I have them dropping 2 slots to number 9. Coming into the season, we knew that Garrett Green was going to be very good, picking up from last season. This team is 2-2. I think that there's a very real case for them to be 3-1 after losing a very, very close rival game to Pitt. Playing number 5 ranked Penn State at home, week 1 in Morgantown, was just a recipe for disaster from the start, if we're being honest. I like the Mountaineers' schedule from this point forward. I expect them to win several more games and be bowl eligible. If you want to win games, you need to shore up the defense. West Virginia fans, you know who I'm talking about. Preseason number 16. I'm an Arizona State fan. You guys should have known this was coming. This isn't a homer pick. Arizona State is better than spots 11 through 16, which I'll dive into after. The team that no one wanted to see this high, no one wanted to believe in the Sun Devils, not even the local media wanted to believe in the Sun Devils. What I can tell you is that through 4 games, this team looks poised to go bowling in just Kenny Dillingham's second season at the helm. Cam Scatabo picked up right where he left off last season, 433 yards on the ground, 190 through the air. This proves to me that he's still the same versatile back that was getting national attention last year as the Paul Horatung's finalist for most versatile player. Arizona State heads into the bye week 3-1, has a week to heal up the defense before a gauntlet of Kansas State, Utah, Cincy, and Oklahoma State in 4 weeks. The benefit is that 3 of those games will be at home. Coming out of the bye week, we need to see some progression from true freshman quarterback Sam Leavitt. I can see this team winning 7 or 8 games and going bowling, which preseason many people thought was a very bleak thought, a very bleak opportunity. Number 11. I have Cincinnati at number 11. They were preseason 14. The Cincinnati squad has looked very good and look to continue a very good season with a tough second half. You got Kansas State, UCF, Iowa State, and Texas Tech, 4 of their next 6 games. This defense has been very, very good, finding a groove early, allowing 15 points per game through 4 games. Sorsby has been very efficient, completing 66% of his passes. He already has over 1,000 yards through 4 games. Kiner, 400 yards on the ground to his name over 4 games. The issue is outside of Sorsby through the air and Kiner on the ground, this team doesn't have a lot to look forward to. I think Cincinnati is going to be a team that's going to hang their hat on defense, and they're going to grind out games at the end of the game. They're going to run the ball down your throat with Kiner. They're going to wear you out. They're going to throw the ball over the top after they wear you out. I expect Cincy to go bowling. This does seem like a tougher task given their schedule down the back half. I can see a record of 7-5 if they can squeak out 1, maybe 2 games where they shouldn't. If you can win either a game against Kansas State, Iowa State, or Texas Tech, any one of those 3, if you go 2-2, God forbid if you go 3-1, but if you go 2-2, I think you're very, very happy over those 4 games. Preseason number 5. I will be the first to admit it. You can look on my page. I have tweeted about 1 million times about them. I think my pinned tweet is about them. I was very wrong on Kansas. Was very, very high on this squad coming into the season. Jalen Daniels was coming back from injury. Devin Neal in the backfield. I was very, very, very wrong about this team, and I'll be the first to admit it. The issue that this team has is that they cannot close out games. They're 1-3, with their last 3 games being losses by a combined 9 points. The defense can't stop water from coming into the boat. Jalen Daniels can't do it all on his own. Similarly to how we discussed several other teams in the Big 12, this team looks very, very one-dimensional if either Devin Neal isn't having a Heisman candidate run or Jalen Daniels isn't having a Heisman candidate run. This team doesn't look in sync. I went from thinking Kansas could win the Big 12 to questioning whether or not they're going to be bowl eligible. If you're a Kansas fan, I apologize, but I was wrong. Next, preseason number 11, I have them at 13. Colorado. Oh, Colorado, where do I start? Should I start with the fact that you stormed the field after beating unranked Baylor in overtime in a game that you were favored? Or I guess I could talk about with how Patrick Mahomes Jr. was flexing how I could talk about how you tried flexing your watch, in Lincoln, Nebraska, and then you lost to Patrick Mahomes Jr. by 20. All I know, and I've been saying this for years, as soon as Prime came to Colorado, he's going to force his kids into the league. Shiloh Sanders, Shadur Sanders, Travis Hunter. Those guys are going to the league after this year. And then he's going to leave Boulder like fucking Houdini. He's going to go up in smoke and he's going to disappear. Travis Hunter should be runaway favorite for the Heisman at this point in the season, but he's not because his team cannot win games. They almost lost to North Dakota State in the season opener as a 9-point favorite. Baylor had them on the brink of another loss as an 8-point favorite. You simply cannot leave the door open for any team in the NCAA. There's too much parity. You can't expect a team to just waltz in and try to embarrass you. Your best win this season is against Colorado State, who I was also high on, who, let's not forget, may not be bowl eligible. Preseason number 12, I have them at 14, is going to be Baylor. The only reason I don't have them against or above Colorado, rather, is because I may get my head chewed off by the Colorado Buffs fans. They just beat Baylor. How do you have Baylor ranked higher than us? Blah, blah, blah. In reality, I don't think many people thought that this Baylor team was going to be good by their rankings in the preseason. I have to admit, even though I have them at 14, this team looks halfway decent. When they're clicking on offense. When they're not, this team looks very similar to Bishop Sycamore. They can't throw the ball. They can't run the ball. I'm going to be the first to admit I haven't watched much Baylor football, but I don't know how they score so many points if they can't run the ball and they can't throw the ball. How are they scoring? I don't know. They have 3 ranked opponents in their next 4. They might have 4 if Texas Tech gets ranked. They may lose all 4 games. Baylor fans, I'm sorry. You're not going bowling this year. Moving on. Texas Christian University, TCU, preseason ranked number 10. I have them at 15. Over the last 2 weeks, they looked abysmal. They lost a close one to Florida. They got boat raced by SMU. They haven't looked good since the Dallas mayor wore a t-shirt that said SMU sucks, schedule us, and then they got boat raced by 20. Not much is going right, other than the fact that their quarterback, Hoover, might throw for 1,000,000 yards. He's averaging 400 yards per game, and they're still losing football games. If I told you a quarterback was throwing 400 yards per game and they were scoring 35 points per game on average over 4 weeks, you would assume that they're winning games. The issue is that their defense is allowing 36 points per game. It's hard to win a game when you don't score more points than defense. TCU has a shot to get 2 wins on their schedule in Kansas and Houston before going into Utah, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, Cincy, and Arizona to round out their schedule. Don't be surprised if they get 2 more wins and then lose the next 5. Sorry, Horned Frogs, maybe next year. Number 16, rounding out the pack with the Houston Cougars. Dear God, where do I even start with Houston? Why were they ranked above Arizona State? Part of me feels like I shouldn't waste my breath on this team. The other part of me says, well, I just wrote a novella for all the rest of the shitty teams in the conference, so why not? Houston has one win against Rice, Minute Maid, Instant Rice. That's it. That's probably the only win they're going to get. Somehow, they only lost to Oklahoma by 3, lost to Cincinnati by 34. 2 weeks later, didn't score a single point. Houston genuinely may not win another game, and I think the number 15 ranking was realistic. If there was only 15 teams in the conference. They don't have a run game, they don't have a pass game, their defense isn't good. Pack it up, Houston. Maybe next year, but probably not. The only benefit is that you have 30 more days until you can watch Kelvin Sampson and the Cougs on the basketball court. And that is how I will round out the Big 12 rankings. Now we will wrap it up with the updated Heisman odds. The last time we talked, heading into week 4, Quinn Ewers was the top. However, Quinn Ewers got injured. Current odds-on favorite is Miami quarterback Cam Ward. He was at previously plus 450. Now he's at plus 350. You have quarterback Jackson Dart from Ole Miss. He's very good. I told you 2 weeks ago you should put a bet on him if you like placing bets. Jackson Dart is the only competition right now. It's between him and Cam Ward. Similar resume to Cam Ward. The only benefit that he has is the media favors the SEC. The SEC is the poster child of the media. If it's between Jackson Dart and Cam Ward, I can guarantee you Jackson Dart's going to win the Heisman. Jalen Milroe went from plus 600 to plus 750. They were idle in week 4. It makes sense why the odds went up, because the other teams played and they got better. Jalen Milroe, again, SEC child favorite. If you liked him at plus 600, you should love him at plus 750. I can tell you that much. And then, God forgive me for pronouncing his name wrong, rounding out the top 5, Nico Imalivia. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. He's a plus 1,000. He's not the primary reason why the Vols are winning games. He leaves a lot of room for improvement. But let's not forget, he's a rookie. If you're a Tennessee fan, you should be thrilled with how he's played through 4 games. And then, just because I told people at the beginning of the season this is how it was going to be, I'm going to remind you guys, I told you that Oregon was not going to win the college football playoffs. And I will tell you again that Dylan Gabriel is not going to win the Heisman. He moved from plus 500 preseason favorite to 4 weeks later, he's plus 1,200. Prior to the week off, he looked comfortable in the rivalry game against Oregon State. Prior to that, questionable. I don't love it. No one loved it. I wouldn't be surprised if they get boat raced by Ohio State. I told you guys that a few weeks as well. Standing on business here, folks. Click me if you want. But Oregon is not going to win the Big Ten. They're not going to win the college football playoffs. Michigan might beat them. Ohio State's definitely going to beat them. I'm standing on business here, folks. Dylan Gabriel, you're in your 35th season. Hang up the cleats, bud. And with that, I will see you guys all next week. Peace.